How's it going, critter people? I hope you all are doing well. I've been requested to look at a video from Stonnie Dennis on why do dogs pull on leash. Sorry, it's taken me a little bit to get to this. I did record it once before, but when I was trying to edit and upload it, this and another video got corrupted. But here we are. So we have why do dogs pull on leash? First off, let me say this, that everything being used here is under Fair Use Act for criticism, educational purposes. I'm just giving my opinion. I'm just kind of reviewing it, again, giving commentary on it. Nothing personal against Mr. Dennis or anybody involved. But my first answer as to why dogs pull on leash is there could be a number of reasons. It depends is a good answer a lot of people might have. Where dogs can pull on leash because they walk faster than us, because they're excited. They're not used to being restricted by a leash. So they pull because it's rewarding. They get to where they want to go because they pull and then they get to go there. They pull out of frustration. They're under-exercised, which I would like to state that I recently have learned, thanks to Zach George. Hey, love him or hate him, he has some good information. I don't mind him at all, but Zach George has changed my mind on under-exercising dogs. Some dogs that just really need some good quality exercise, and it doesn't make them too in shape and whatnot. So good, So anyway, besides the point, under-exercised dogs, physically and mentally. The leash itself, the opposition reflex. A big reason why dogs pull is because it's a pull into a pool. You're trying to go one way, somebody pulls you back, you're going to fight that. It's a natural instinct we don't think about. Hence the reflex. So there's a number of reasons, why they don't see why they should walk by our side, right? They just they want to go. They're excited. There's a lot of things to sniff, and they're tired of a boring human life. So let's see what this gentleman has to say about it, and let's get started.
Guys, come on, up. All right, so now let's get back to talking about this question that people do not like to ask.
I will say I don't like that he uses a tiny slip lead. Like, this has become so universal in dog world. I don't know how long he's been using this. I mean, he has all his, his satchels and all his tools, and I'm sure treats and whistles and everything, which is great. He has his clicker, but I've never seen him actually use it. But, it's great that you have this great little obstacle course, which is awesome, but if this is all you rely on, this is not impressive alone. This is just my side comment. But my guessing is that this dog is not going to pull because of the slip lead. The slip lead creates discomfort. I always say discomfort at the least and pain at the most. So probably discomfort. The dog is not going to want to pull a lot because this tiny strand around a big, thick dog's neck, even this puppy here, is going to be very uncomfortable. So he's relying on the tool instead of actually teaching the dog to be able to walk in anything, collar as wide as his straps here. Why doesn't he have a tiny string on his satchel or saddlebags, whatever you want to call them, his little suspenders here? Why doesn't he have a string on it? Because it would be very painful and uncomfortable with the amount of weight on him. That's just my 2 cents, but let's hear what he has to say.
Ask the question, why does my dog pull on the leash? In all honesty, because people do not like the answer. The truth is that most dogs pull on the leash, because they lead lives of quiet desperation. Okay.
So he's like talking as if his like gospel. I mean, he has this like fancy terms and whatnot. Like what lives of what did he say? It doesn't matter, but.
Because they lead lives of quiet desperation.
Quiet desperation. Okay, yeah, you're right. They're desperate. This dog has a pretty stressed tongue. It could be because it's hot out. I don't know if he has water available for them. It looks like he hosed this area down, which is good. I don't know if he did that to make it cooler for them or not, but something to keep an eye on. Yeah, you have all this equipment. It's dark. I know I'm kind of going down rabbit holes, but this is what I see. Like I'm not just looking at the question here. I'm looking at a number of things. I'm paying attention to the totality of circumstances here. So he's going to be given...
Stonnie, what do you mean by that?
These confusing answers to confuse you and make it... we don't need any more confusion in the animal training world, specifically the dog training world. Just tell it like it is. They pull because they walk faster than us. And instead of putting these fancy terms to it, like sovereign citizens, saying, no, I'm traveling, I'm not in commerce, blah, 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 blah. If you don't know what that means, then, you can look it up. It's just whatever. It's just nonsense. But, just speak in plain penguin, okay? Speak in plain English so the average person can understand you.
Quiet desperation.
Kind of kneeing into the dog's head, doesn't really know where to go.
Turn the tables a bit, and let's put you in the dog's position.
Perfect. I love to do that. I love to put people, again, this dog has a stressed tongue. Are these dogs, all of them, like hot and tired? They could be. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with them. I'm just saying they'll have really flat, spatulate tongues. I would think they're probably hot, and I would hope that they have some water in a shaded area, so it's not hot water. I don't know what the temperature is outside, but I would hope that they would have several areas where they could get water to rehydrate and cool themselves off. But I love to put the human in their dog's position, in their dog's paws. Absolutely. I love to put people and change the perspective that, hey, whatever you ask your dog to do, would you want to do that to yourself?
If I offered you this deal, I said you could come live at my house. Now, you don't get free run of my house, right? I mean, a substantial portion of the day, I'll lock you up in a little plastic box.
Now, I'm absolutely with him on this, but I just want to notice that I want you to notice that he's going to be talking about all this, which is absolutely true, but his actions do not follow what he's talking about. He's relying on a tool to keep the dog from pulling. It's tiny compared to this dog's, body, square inchage or whatever, the square footage of this dog's body. It's high up behind the skull, the most sensitive area of this dog's body. Okay, so he's saying one thing, but he's doing another. So just keep an eye out for that.
Then when I get home from work,
I'm on board with what he's saying.
I tie a rope around your neck, and I take you outside. Now, when I take you outside, I immediately want you to eliminate in a spot that I've chosen so that it makes it convenient for me to clean up, right? Okay. Then we're going to continue on our walk. But on the walk, like, I don't want you to go see any of your friends, right? I don't want you to try to smell anything. I don't want you to...
I agree. I'm with that.
Interact with the environment in any way.
Like, people are too... And it's because of a lot of trainers that have, maybe even him, I don't know. But a lot of I don't know what he's done. Apparently Hermes, my ferret, is awake. But I don't know how he trains, but a lot of trainers are so... And trainers make the owners, who learn from them, all these influencers make everybody so controlling, like Joel Beckman and even... just so many other names. Joel is just the first one that comes to mind. I'm terrible with names. I remember dogs' names more than I do the humans' names. But people are just so, they want a robot. They don't want a living creature that lives for scents and sights and running around.
Petted, or loved on by any of the other people that we run into. I just want you to walk on this leash. Hey, and besides just walking on the leash or walking on the rope I have on your neck.
So ouch there, you didn't notice it, or maybe you did. You went to go sniff and he kept walking, and he's talking about not letting him sniff and this and that, but he pulls on this leash and it worked because it's small and it's painful when... It's painful when he's tightening this up now. It doesn't take a lot of pressure. So he's kind of fooling you. He's pulling the wool over your eyes and saying, yeah, listen to what I'm talking about. Look at my dog walk this and that and this and that. But then lip lick, this dog wanted to sniff, but he's pulling. And again, leverage. It doesn't take a lot on this tiny string around your own neck. And if you're fighting it, it's going to hurt. So you're going to pull. You're going to move into the pressure very easily. Versus if this dog had a harness, it would take a lot more force. Not saying that you have to use a harness or you can't teach the dog to give in to pressure lightly, but this is what you're going to be reliant on. You're not teaching the dog anything really other than to, when you don't have this tiny slip lead on, I'm going to pull and do all this other stuff. And being, normal, it's normal for a dog.
I want you to look up at my face and act like I'm super important because I need that. Okay? Now, when we're done with our little walk,
now he's talking about all this. And I agree with it. But yet, isn't he really doing the same thing by trying to impress people with his little obstacle course that he always goes through and this and that and this and that? He could have taught these dogs with positive reinforcement, but I'm assuming he used the slip lead, which is not positive reinforcement. I'm not saying that he claims to be positive reinforcement, but he's talking about he's harping on all the people who have these high expectations of dogs. But he's really no better in my mind, in my eyes, in my opinion, because he's still forcing the dog to go through these things to impress people Well, he's talking almost like, gospel-like about, you know, all these confusing things that, yes, I get it. Again, I agree with what he's saying, but his words and his actions don't match. Do as I say, not as I do, but you lead by example.
I'm going to take you home, and I'm going to put you back in your little plastic box. Then I'm going to go out and eat chicken wings and watch football with my friends. And then maybe I'll come home, and after I've been out watching football, I'll put a rope back on your neck. I'll take you back out, and I'll tell you to eliminate again, right? And then we go back in and go to sleep. Would you take that deal? Of course you wouldn't take that deal.
You get a little head popping
That's
out of
not
there.
a very good deal for most dogs. And so when you're like on the internet and you're looking for solutions to dogs pulling on the leash, guys, solutions.
See, he's able to move him and maneuver him, and just takes you won't even notice that his hand's moving because he has this tiny rope around this dog's neck. I mean, I could move Adonis with the rope, but it's not going to be anywhere near this tight. He knows, he's learned through very wide collars and harnesses how to give into pressure. I didn't have to teach him through pain or discomfort.
Usually very good if you don't know the root cause. And the root cause.
And you want to be aware of, yes, I agree. Root cause is very important. Under-exercised dogs, all these other things. Also, I know I'm going down rabbit holes, I'm sorry, but when you're going through stuff like this, keep an eye on the temperature because plastic can heat up, it's black and whatnot. It can burn their little footies. I'm not saying they are, but these dogs are really panting. He's got some wrinkles here. He looks stressed. Maybe he needs some water. Maybe he needs to cool down. I don't know how long they've been out here, or if they've been running around, he needs some shade.
Pulling in a dog's life.
Yawn, stress yawn.
They just don't get to do enough fun stuff. It really is that simple, right?
This
now,
dog seems a little
here.
stressed.
Otter, he lives in Lexington, Virginia, and he pulls on the leash a lot where he lives, okay?
And I'm assuming that he's going to send him home with the slip lead. That's it. That's all he's doing. He talks one way, but then he does another. Like, yeah, he'll probably give them a lot of other information to do, which is great. You don't need this obstacle course to tire your dog out. Like, it's great. That's awesome. But you can also just, take your time, teach them to give into pressure, using a harness, or don't even teach them that, just use, anytime they're not pulling, they come back to your side, reward, or use this to kind of keep their mind busy, or just whatever. I mean, you don't need this special fancy thing to teach your dog not to pull. You also don't need to rely on a slip lead to teach your dog not to pull.
Because
it is important to understand the underlying issues why dogs pull and work with that.
Just doesn't get to be,
but again, stress tongue,
as friendly as he would like to be. And so when he's presented with options, come on, when he's presented with options to see people out in public, or to see other dogs, or to see squirrels, or see things like that,
tightens it up.
Look, guys, these two dogs, they're bred to be super happy and super outgoing and to crave
energetic
attention. When you buy a dog to crave attention, yes, it does crave attention from you.
Oh,
it craves approval from you. But that same dog, it's got a giant capacity for love. And it wants love from lots of people and lots of other dogs. And it wants to get out and enjoy the environment.
Again,
it wants
kind
to
of a
roll
stress
in the mud
tongue,
sometimes.
maybe
It wants
not
to
too
roll
bad.
in stinky stuff sometimes. Okay? It wants to do all the stuff that dogs want to do. Just like when you were a kid, when you had.
And yes, dogs can certainly do things that they want to do. I mean, you can allow them a time and a place for that. It doesn't mean that you have to, but you can also meet them halfway. Hey, if you don't pull for 10 straight paces, then you can go sniff this tree. Or if you're pulling to sniff the tree, as long as we walk calmly, you can sniff it for a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes. The Premack principle. Once you teach them how to work in a human's world, and this is not realistic of a human's world. This is just some fancy, which is cool and fun, but more competition-like. But if you teach them, hey, you eat your vegetables, then you get your dessert. Once you've taught them the basics and you prepared them, and this is not necessarily preparing them. Again, I want to point that out for people who may not know anything and they're like, oh, wow, this is really impressive. Yeah, it's cool, but once you prepare them for the real world, not pulling, not barking at people, not being allowed to say hello to every dog you see. It's okay to not say hello because you get other things instead. Then you move on to the Premack principle, where you don't have to have that constant reinforcer of food or a toy or a ball. You can say, hey, let's go sniff, or hey, you walk nicely out the front door. We're going to go for our walk.
And new body, you wanted to go out and you wanted to experiment with that new body. You wanted to be social. You wanted to make new friends. You wanted to test boundaries, okay? And so that's what you did when you were a kid. You tested boundaries a little bit. Come on, Stonewall. Well, these dogs are exactly the same. So, like, you might say, well, Stoney, if these dogs, if they're wanting to go out and they're wanting to see their friends and they're wanting to test boundaries and they're wanting to, like, interact with nature, why aren't they pulling on the leash? Okay?
Because of the slip lead. And because you ran them before this, which is great, you got that exercise out, and because this dog has done this probably a dozen times. I mean, they're just, it's, by now they do it like it's just muscle memory, which is fine, but I mean, look at this dog's body language. Look at his, again, he's doing this because you have him on a slip lead, because you have him on a leash, period. He wouldn't do this if he weren't on a slip lead, if he weren't forced. Even on a harness, you could still do this. He may not respond as quickly or the same way, but to make it simple, if he weren't saying anything, I would be saying, if I had him muted, I would be saying the same exact thing. That this dog is doing this because the slip lead is making him. And if he refuses, he gets pressure with the slip lead, which is already tight. I'm not saying that he's going to choke the dog or anything like that, but I guess in the end, it's really the dog's choice. I have no idea how he starts this. He may start on camera showing treats, but I would assume that he just uses the slip lead. And just, he might call it pressure and release when it's really just constant tight pressure of the slip lead, and as soon as they give in, then you release, which is not really the ideal way of using pressure and release, but
these dogs aren't pulling on the leash because
when they pull, it hurts. That's why.
Convinced them that leash compliance leads to freedom, okay? And that brings
it also leads to the end of discomfort. That's more of the simple reason besides from when you stop pulling leads to freedom. If that were true, then he could use a harness on this dog, and I would have no problem with that. But because he's not, he's using a tiny slip lead. He says one thing, but he's actually doing another. Yes, it means freedom, but more importantly to the dog, it means immediate compliance, means no more removal of discomfort.
Back to what I was saying earlier about there are no good short-term solutions, okay?
Agreed.
To dogs that don't walk on the leash well, okay?
Agreed.
I'm a big proponent of food work. I mean, I was an early adopter of food work. I've been doing food work and marker training.
Then if you worry, that's all you need. You don't need this. All these people say, oh, I use food all the time. I don't believe it. Personally, I don't believe him one bit. That's just me. You can believe him. I don't watch his stuff. I don't care to. I see what I see. I don't see what I want to see. I see what I see.
For 30 years, okay? And I love it, okay? But you notice, I don't walk around with handfuls of food or a ball under my arm or a tug in my pocket. And I also don't
Well, you could, though. I mean, you don't have to. That's, again, preparing your dog the first way. And then you do the pre-MAC principle. You do the walking nicely, blah, 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 blah. And then you can get your end result of a reward. But this dog is only working to avoid correction. That is it.
Around expecting dogs to stare up at my face. When I go out to walk with dogs, you'll hear me say, let's go, because that's what I'm doing. I'm going on a walk, and I say to the dog, hey, let's go on a walk. And on this walk, I would like for it to be a fun and beneficial experience for both of us, right? And if I do my job right, come on.
He just moves into the dog, lip licks.
If I do my
job.
Again,
there.
For both of us, right?
Okay, here. It doesn't take a lot to make this dog move because it's a tiny string. Do this to your own neck. Pull.
And if I do my job right, come on, Stonewall.
Ouch, ouch, ouch.
If I do...
He originally fought it. That's how you teach dogs to pull or to not give into pressure, is if you don't have enough pain, the dog's going to learn to fight it. That's the opposition reflex right there. He said, you're pulling me, I'm going to fall. What's going on? Ouch, ouch, it hurts. Oh, if I move in, okay. That's how he teaches dogs to not pull on leash. This is just the opposite version. But if the dog were pulling this way, he would just do pull back, or he might pop up, or he might do other things.
My job right, then what happens is the dog starts to realize that, like, we're going to go out and we're going to do something fun that's fun for both of us. And as a result of the dog engaging in the activity with me in a mutually beneficial way, we're both going to end up better off. Okay? So
in the end, the dog is listening because of the slip lead. In this scenario, because of the slip lead. That's all I see. Could they still have a good time afterwards?
Right here,
sure.
Even though the dog's a little hot and a little tired from running around and playing.
Okay, so he is hot. He's hot. He's tired. He doesn't have water around. He doesn't have shade for these guys.
Compliance, it leads to freedom. Okay, so whether you're...
Yeah, mainly compliance, though, for these dogs, compliance means no pain, first of all, or no discomfort, and then freedom, secondly. That's just what I see. If I were a dog in this situation, that's what I'm seeing.
On a food work protocol, or you're doing traditional leash and collar work, whatever training aid that you're using, guys, always remember that there's a time and place for extrinsic motivation. There's a time and place.
Again, these fancy big terms.
For your marker training, okay? There's a time and place for your leash and collar training. There's a time and place to maybe employ balls in the beginning stages of your training, okay? But that's not
I can teach a dog to do all this without even having to show the ball in front of them the whole time. That means that you don't know what you're doing. I mean, nothing wrong with it, but
strategy. That's why when you
that doesn't mean that because you can't get away from using the ball that you have to do this.
It on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, it's all chopped up into these little 15 and 20-second things. There's a million, literally, at least 1 million videos of people getting dogs to walk beside them and look up and prance, and the person's got treats and they're holding treats and they're making.
So again, it's all about his opinion, not fact. He's making this about. I mean, I could make this about opinion. I'm not telling you to come watch my videos. I'm not trying to show you anything. I'm just reviewing this guy and telling you what I hear. I mean, if you want to watch my videos, you're welcome to, but there's plenty of other people better than, much better at training and producing videos than I am, like Risha Stewart or Susan Garrett is a new name I've heard, Kiko Pup, or there's Zach George even, or there's Training Positive, or there's Victoria Stillwell. I mean, there's so many other names out there that you can look into. Other than mine that actually have, fantastic information out there and fantastic videos out there. See, by no means, I mean, if you want to look at my channel, then you can look at my playlist of obedience and other things that I've taught, but you don't have to. But I'm also not lying to you. I'm not trying to hide things. I'm being honest.
The tug, guys, that's not practical. Okay?
Oh, but this is? I'd rather my dog work because I have a ball and they know that I equal fun than my dog working because they have to, because they are a slave, because whatever reason, XYZ, because I rely on a shoelace string to cause discomfort at the least or pain at the most, and my dog is working because they have to, and they would rather be away from me. They're only here and compliant because of the threat of discomfort.
If you want to work on that, that's fine. That doesn't have anything to do with
he's
satisfying your dog.
He's applying his opinion in a sneaky way and acting as if it's more of a fact. All these trainers do this. These balance, these compulsion, whatever you want to call them. They tell their opinion, even Learberg, all these people. Their opinion, and they act as if it's fact. It's not. It's an opinion. It's just like, this is my opinion. And I don't think he's very good. So we're going to end that there. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this video was helpful for you all. Jack Zaruni, who I believe is the one that has been asking about this, I hope I satisfied whatever you're looking to get out of it. This is just my opinion of him. I don't like Stonnie Dennis. I mean, I'm not saying like he's a bad guy. I don't like his training. I'm not a fan of his. We'll say it that way. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Be sure to give your little critters some loving or just say howdy do for me. And until next time, stay positive.